All right.
All right, we're back. Once again, Trevor's not on the podcast. No, he's not on vacation. I've just been having great guests come in, and he's been busy. So I got my boy Leon here. Leon, I'll let you do a quick little introduction. What you're about, who you're about, and kind of go from there. We'll keep it pretty casual.
Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, my name is Leon. I own a small SEO agency. I've been doing SEO since 2015, 2016, somewhere around in there. I do a lot of testing with Google, a lot of experimental stuff. I like to kind of get in the weeds of SEO. I like where things have been heading with all of the new AI stuff that's been going on, and looking forward to chatting about that. It's kind of
Leon,
at the
what?
top of mind.
Yeah, for sure. How could they reach out to you? Like, what's your website, etc.? What's your brand?
Yeah, yeah. My company's SEO Science, and you can go to SEO.science, and all my contact information is there.
That's right. You have a science domain, no
Yeah,
TLD.
yeah.
That's
I
what you
got,
heard.
dude, I got lucky. Namecheap ended up changing their pricing structure for all the like fancy
Yeah,
TLDs. Yeah, I got lucky. I think I
that's
snagged
awesome.
that thing for like $20, and now those science domains are like $10,000 or something. So I
Are
got
they
super.
really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Did you notice anything like with ranking that domain at all? With science on it?
I instantaneously ranked for the brand name, but then again, it's
Right.
like how
Sure.
many people are like searching. Yeah, yeah, but no, I
But no
haven't.
issue.
I'm rolling out. I want to say in another week or two, we're rolling out a new version of the website right now. It's just like a simple one pager. I just wanted like a landing page up there and running because like
Yeah.
I had been running the agency since when did I leave Elevated? That was like July, August. It was back in 2020, I think. So
Yeah.
somewhere
Yeah.
around in there. So like from that point, for the first like 2 years, I was getting business off of just like talking to people on
Person
Facebook
referrals.
and
Yeah.
referrals, Upwork, stuff like that. But then yeah, so whenever I finally got a website, I needed to put something out there. I ended up like losing a bunch of leads because I looked like I was
Yeah. Not a
just a
legit
dude. I'm just
brand.
like
Yeah.
someone's cousin who does SEO. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I mean, we started working back. What was that? 20. So if you left in 2020 or 2020, we probably worked for what, three years
I
together,
think
maybe.
so. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
three
So like
years.
2017 or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. Leon was always, working on my team. He was always the SEO guy that would get more technical, get more into the code, etc. So very like, yeah, I was always remember being impressed on the technical side. But it was awesome to kind of see you just like mature through it all, break off, do your own thing,
Appreciate it, man.
and
Yeah. It's been
yeah,
a
no, it's one of
journey,
those
dude.
things where it's like it's always that like, I've been doing SEO a long time, but like when you have someone that you're working with, and then all of a sudden they become better, it's like, hey, I am all about that. Like, dude, it's really cool to see like the evolution of people you've worked with
I
as we get
appreciate
into
it,
the
dude. You know,
SEO network, man.
I think we talked about this, dude, but like, so I was in the Marine Corps before, getting into this whole thing. And I went from the infantry into communications, comm, and then like, I was touching like satellites and phones and switchboards and all kinds of like kind of getting introduced to, like tech, if you will.
Sure.
But I never in my life, dude, I didn't even know how to turn on a computer. And so like the last thing that I thought that I was gonna do was like something on the computer. But like what ended up happening with that was I don't know, I like used to be like really into science and like figuring things out, and it's like a puzzle. And especially like once we started working together and like being brought along, and then I was actually like touching things and we were tweaking things and seeing how it worked, it kind of just like evolved from there.
Yeah, that is the one thing about like the SEO discipline that is cool compared to any of the other like digital marketing fields there are, is that there's a little bit of that science, a little bit of that woo woo. It's like it's not
Yep.
100% knocked down of how it works, but I think it's a big problem solving, because they don't give you the direct answer. I think on the paid side it can be a little bit more straightforward, like, hey, you do all these things, and you kind of get the expected result. Sometimes we'll do things and we get like unexpected results, like,
Yeah.
oh, how did the hell that happen? Or out of nowhere something starts to rank and you're like, whoa, how did? And you kind of like have to back engineer it. Um, so I've kind of had that same sentiment of like, okay, I didn't think I was going to do SEO by any means. Like, I don't know. It's like I played a shit ton of video games as a kid, but never,
Yeah, that was the
I wanted to be
extent.
a digital
That was the
marketer. You know,
extent.
it's like,
Yeah.
no, I kind of just kind of fell into it. And I appreciated the SEO side of things, of kind of connecting the dots, putting the pieces together. And then it is, as much as it doesn't evolve, it does evolve to where you have to kind of stay on top of it, which is cool.
Yeah, dude, I think between all of the paid sides, like you got Google ads, we got Facebook ads, we got all these, even TikTok ads are new now, and like I think out of all the strategies that exist, it's like SEO is the one where, I mean, a lot of this stuff you don't really go to college for anyway, but
Yep.
SEO in particular is one of those things where it evolves constantly to the point where like you've really got to be on it. You really got to
I
be on
think
it.
it's one of those things where if you can practice it and actually do the work, you can learn how to do it. And like you can be self-made in doing it, compared to something like paid or whatnot. Like, and so just if you fuck around with your own properties, you do your own tests, you could become really good at it. Like you
Yeah.
really can be. You don't need a damn degree for any of that stuff. Like, especially nowadays. Like,
Do you
yeah.
remember? Do you remember that tool that I made back in
Which one? I remember
2020?
you made a lot.
The that testing tool, the one where we can set up a bunch of those fake domains or test domains. Oh,
Dude,
you don't
refresh my
recall that, do
memory on
you?
that.
Okay,
Refresh
dude.
my memory on
All
that
right,
thing, man.
all right. So first of all, if you go into Google, all right, you go into Google, you just start smashing your keyboard, and you get like 20 random letters. Okay, when you do that,
Yep.
nothing's going to show up for it, right? Okay, it'll say like Google, we could not find search results for your
Yep.
match or something like that. Okay, so you go to Namecheap, and then you buy a bunch of those .xyz, those little spammy little shits. They're for $1. They're like $1 a piece. You can
Yeah.
get like a whole bunch of those domains for like $1. And what you do is you'll take that keyword, okay, and then you'll use like lorem ipsum or maybe random English like stop words, if, I, my, but, the, for, to, but say you get a couple thousand words of just like random bullshit, and then you put that keyword in there that doesn't show up in Google. You put that in there a few times on all these different pages, and then within just a couple of hours, if you search for that keyword, all of the domains that you set up would show up for it. And then what you can
Right.
do from that point is you can kind of tweak something. You can mess with the page, and if it goes up or goes down, you'll know that if it's a positive or negative, like ranking factor. You can do a lot of experiments like that. But that tool that I set up was it would connect all of those domains, and then it would, whatever test that you're doing, it would help like roll out that test across all of the different sites so that you can test whatever you're trying to test. You can test that across 5, 10, 15, 20 domains to actually get a real beat on if something is, because things could be a fluke, this is like SEO, this is
Sure.
Google, but you can get a real beat on it. And then it would like generate like an Excel file, like a breakdown of like the correlation and stuff, and if it actually works.
Dude, I don't remember that one. I do remember maybe you showing some different domains. That might have been right after you popped and left, but that makes sense though, because it's the perfect example I was talking about earlier. It was like, I kind of did something like that, but then you go ahead and build something that's way better and do it. Because like back in the day, I think I remember explaining to you, like, we did the same thing. We'd buy, like, I think I bought like 3 or 4 different domains. They weren't the cheap ones back in the day. Put up some bullshit content, but it was all manually done, But the idea was that what was I screwing around with at the time? One of the tests I was running was like, if you link to a website twice, do they take the anchor text of the second link?
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. And so, but like, how did I determine the anchor text? I used random characters,
Yeah.
and then it would rank for like, okay, the first hyperlink with random characters. I could get that other page to rank for that because it just had a hyperlink to it. That was it. That had that anchor text. This was
Interesting.
a long time ago. So I could say, okay, that was there. But then it would never rank for the second anchor text at all. So I was like, okay, so the second URL back then did not pass the anchor text value. That's when the anchor text like was a huge ranking factor. I mean, it's still pretty decent, but ranking factor in the search results. And then I was like, well, how do I circumvent that and go around it? And so if we did a 301 redirect, we did like a stopgap of a 301 in between the second anchor text, it would actually pass through. And that was the kind of ideation of like, okay, well, how would
Wait. Hold on. So the second one would be a redirect to the same page, but with a different anchor text?
yes, you'd filter it through like a 301.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
and the second
Dude, I
anchor
bet you that
text would
still
pass
works.
through.
That'd be something to look at.
I'm
That's
sure
interesting.
it might do. So it's like, hey, if you're doing link building and typically you only get one link from the page or in the article, because the whole idea was like, oh, the second link doesn't count on the page if it goes to the same page as the
Yeah.
anchor text. Like, well, like how can I get double benefit from it? Well, it's like, okay, well, I don't think I actually deployed it through practice because setting up a 301 for all the different URLs was be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But that was the concept behind it. So
No, that's interesting. That'd be something. That's something I
yeah,
actually I wanna test out. You know that
testing
thing?
stuff's always interesting.
Yeah, dude. The you know that post that you've seen from earlier on LinkedIn where I was, we did this like experiment with a client where the
Yeah, I just saw that today. Yeah,
so
super fresh.
so check this out, right? Two things. One, there was like the oldest like test in the book, like the first test that I ever ran, and it was like, is it keyword density that affects rankings, or is it the amount of keywords on the page? Because like in the community and search engine journal and all these like publications, they say like keyword density isn't a thing, but is it or is it not? And so, anyways, point is, I set up like this experiment where I would have, let's just say I would have a page that would be like 5% keyword density, 10%, 15, 20, all the way up to 95. And but the amount of words would be the same. I think it was maybe like 1,000 or 2,000 words of content. So the amount of words
Sure.
would be the same, but the keywords would increase. And then I would have pages set up where it was 100. Let's say it was like 100 words as an example, 100 keywords. But then one page would have 1,000 words on it, 2,000, 3,000, so on and so forth. But it would have the same amount of keywords. Anyways, long story short, even today, we're talking as of 3 months ago, keyword density, it beats everything.
Is there a certain value you should aim for based on those studies that are
Dude,
there? Or is
listen,
like
dude,
100,000%?
listen. This is across 5 domains. 5 domains. And what ranked number one was 95% keyword density, 90% keyword density.
Yeah. Now, when we say keyword density, are we talking like the exact match term or like semantically close
Exact
enough?
match.
Like
Exact
exact
match.
match.
Exact match.
Okay.
Exact match. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there's like,
Yeah.
it's kind of different whenever it's like a keyword that doesn't get a lot of search volume, stuff like that.
Sure.
But still, the fact is they still use it. Like it's still part of their, like they don't have any entity and stuff like that they can bring in. It's like they got to work with what they've got. You know what I
No, it's
mean?
like still pretty basic of like, hey, you search for something, you probably want to see it on the page.
Yeah. So like,
Common sense.
yeah, there was that, and then
You're
back in
talking
like
about the code reduction. You're talking about the code
exactly,
reduction.
yeah, I'm kind of like leaning into that. So like the next
Perfect.
thing that we ended up doing was like it was a test like you hear about a keyword being higher on the page. If it's higher on the page, it has more ranking. Like you heard about that, and
Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, like e-commerce websites, they might have the category level content at the bottom versus the top.
yeah.
There's that, but I guess where the keyword is placement, I've heard that too. Yeah,
So let me tell you this. I don't know how much of a ranking factor this is, but I can tell you that the higher that the keyword is in the page, the higher it ranks. It's weird as shit. But it does rank. Like it's like I had the keyword at the end of paragraph one on page one. That was ranking number one. And then I had the keyword at the end of paragraph two on another page, and then three. And it was like just like that. It was definitely sorted. I don't know how strong of a factor that is, but that sort
but
was
yeah, all
there.
things given. I mean, that's kind of what SEO is all about: is trying to find these little winning factors and building up something together,
Yeah.
multiple factors to get the winning result. But also, man, it's like logical, right? If someone's searching for something, they go to Google, they click on your website. Hopefully, your website should talk about it, and they should see the damn keyword that they searched
Right,
for
right.
right away, like above the page fold, so they don't go back and bounce back. You know, even if it's not one of those like algorithmically where it's placed, they're looking at, you could tell by like user behavior if someone stays on the page higher because your keyword was up higher, and it connects the dots and they don't leave, and they don't have a bigger like back click through rate or whatever it's called. Makes sense.
It
Like, hey,
yeah.
you made it stickier,
It's
you
pretty,
know?
yeah. I probably a lot of that stuff's like common sense, but let me tell you,
But it's
dude.
common sense, but you're showing it as a factor though, which I think a lot of times I'm just like, yeah, it kind of makes sense as a fact. But like you can actually show it, which is I think gives it so much more weight.
Yeah, I used to start publishing this stuff, man. I just start publishing
Just
some
make
of this
it
stuff.
simple, little brief stuff, dude. You don't have to get in the details of like, hey, did this, that's that, you know. And if someone wants to get the details, then you can have a
Yeah,
one-on-one
true,
conversation.
true, true.
You know, you
Um,
don't have to overthink it.
but I will tell you, dude, that based on those two things right there, I had this idea. Like, the client, this was for an e-commerce client, the whole code reduction thing, and like
Uh-huh.
they've got like I don't know, like two
What
hundred
platform were they on, if you don't mind me
Shopify.
asking? Okay, I was curious on how easy it is to reduce code within Shopify. That was going to be a follow-up comment I had for you, but
Yeah,
continue
well,
on.
yeah,
Set
well,
up the experiment. I'm getting ahead of
yeah, yeah,
ourselves.
all
So
good,
let's
all
set the
good.
audience up.
So basically, the idea was to instead, like we've got, first of all, let me lay out some groundwork here. There's like hundreds of product pages. There's like 30 collection pages, and there's like a huge blog section. There's just a lot of pages to work with, and I've got a small team, like very small team. There's only three of us, and then our devs, it's very tiny. And so, we've got a bunch of clients, so it's like a resource issue here. And so the idea was, is there something that we could do that maybe it would like give the entire website a facelift instead of just like working on one individual page at a time and trying to squeeze all the little like juice that we can out of it? Because backlinks too, I mean, shit, you gotta wait like a month and a half to get
For it to
yeah,
kick.
for it to kick in. So anyways, the idea was, can we look at all of the like global sections of the website, the top navigation, sidebars, footers, like the templated FAQ sections, product description areas, and like just like thin the code down, because keyword density is a ranking factor. And in theory, kind of getting rid of that extra code, not the content, but like the code, that in theory that should kind of lift things up. That was the idea, and the client was willing to roll with it. And I told him, I was like, this is an experiment, dude. I just want to see if this happens or see if this can work. And he was like, yeah. So we ended up rolling that out on like product pages, then down the product description, just all the areas that we could, that we know kind of replicate, like CTAs, all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Anyways, I gave it a month, and so I looked at it here at the end of May. I gave it the entirety of May to just see what happens. And obviously, there's a bunch of other stuff going on. Google's always moving, but we
Sure.
didn't do any other link. We didn't do any link building, even the month prior, and we didn't make any changes to the website. And I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it was something like a 13% increase in keywords. It was like almost a 18% increase in impressions or something like that, which probably doesn't sound that much, but it was significant
In 1 month,
enough. Yeah,
that's good.
yeah,
Yeah, that's 1 month. That'll compound over time.
and I'm hoping that let's say the results look pretty significant. I'm rolling that out to a couple other accounts right now, and if it works for the rest of the accounts, that's going to be something that
You
I'm looking
standardize
into.
it.
Yeah, dude, because you got to think. Shopify is one thing. We could talk about that because they've got these .liquid file templates set up for like
Yeah, so that's kind
PVPs.
of, I'm curious, like, hey, because like it is, you're kind of working within the confines of Shopify, but I guess within the template files themselves, you can clean them up a little bit more, because maybe there was, and I'm not a programmer or designer at all, but was there like just crappy CSS that was in there, or like how did you get it to? Obviously, you can reduce like removing a footer and just remove code, But like, how do you clean up the code within like a Shopify
Yeah,
environment?
hey, now for the most part, this wasn't even me. Okay, this is the developer.
No,
But
for sure. Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, it's like yeah, everything's built with I mean, you're basically writing code and using like HTML as like strings to kind of like concatenate everything together. But yeah, that was pretty much the idea. Like we'd have a look at the like whenever we're looking at the page and you pull up like DevTools, you know, the
yeah. Pull up the
yeah,
source
pull up
code
the
or inspect
yeah,
tool.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then you can kind of see and like you'll know just looking at it if it looks like crap. Like you know all those Elementor sites, like those WordPress websites and how they just it's like div content.
Yeah,
Div content. Like imagine all that bloat garbage and then, you know, just getting rid of that. I mean, how to do it? It's another problem to
yeah.
solve for.
That's interesting, but it's just streamlining it, making it super clean. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Think about how
Yeah, keep me
widespread that
posted because
is. Like it's like across the
you know
whole website.
I think that's probably a combination of front end and back end design too.
Mm.
Because like even something like Elementor is a great tool if you build it correctly in the back end for your client so they can modify the content. But if you're not doing it all that good, it's going to be a horrible experience for them. But yeah, on the front end of the website, how does that actually produce code outwards? Um, I still probably think at the end of the day, like a basic ass HTML website is the best.
Yeah.
Like super
Yep.
custom. Like it's super light. It's going to be super fast. But that makes sense. Did you have like a code to keyword density ratio you were just looking at when you were looking at the source code, or was just kind of like, hey, let's clean this area up, let's
Nope.
clean this up?
Yeah, just the idea
Yeah,
is like, what can we do for a product page template? What can we do for the collection page template? I just look at it as like a template level. Like,
yeah, the
what can
template.
we
Yeah,
do
no, it's a
to,
great way of looking at it.
yeah. And
That's a big thing with e-commerce clients that are kind of nice. Like if you can modify the mass templates, like you can have an impact
yeah.
site
But dude,
wide.
there's like no way in hell you're gonna go in there and update like hundreds of product pages in
Yeah,
a
especially
really
products. Yeah,
granular way. Like, yeah.
yeah. It's difficult where like, hey, title tags are going to be based off product naming, etc. The descriptions of products, yeah, you can mess with it these days with like AI and doing some content generation stuff. But even like importing it and implementing it, that's kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like, if you got thousands of products, you can create something somewhat unique. But yeah, those template layers, if you can modify them, that makes sense. A lot. And on the e-commerce side, though, I mean, that example you shared with me a couple months back, as far as what was it, the content, um, basically overdoing it on your blog. Um,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? I have thought about that, and I have shared that just internally, and sometimes on a couple prospect calls, because like people get so jazzed about blogging content. I'm like, whoa, hold the fuck up,
Yeah.
man! Like,
Yeah. Dude, you
like,
pull those sites up. I mean, I can share, what it is, the
yeah,
website.
if you want to, yeah,
Yeah, if anybody's
yeah, just do
curious.
this website, but yeah,
Yeah.
pull this. I think it's a really important process, because what I think this shows is that a lot of shitty SEOs write crappy blog content and say it's a service, and it actually does a
Yeah,
disservice.
even though it's bringing in
I'll set it up as
traffic,
that.
even though it's bringing in traffic, it's like
Yeah, but
doing you a
yeah,
disservice. It's crazy. So,
yeah. So I'll let you set it up. I think it's a good example to bring up.
uh, yeah. So if anybody watching this is curious, the website is thepearlsource.com. They're in the it's e-commerce store. They're in the fine jewelry space. Everything with pearls, pearl earrings, pearl necklaces, pearl bracelets, everything pearls. Okay, so back in December 2022, they lost like 30-40% of their traffic or something like that, like almost overnight. They thought that they were hit by
Like
a
during an algorithm
penalty.
update or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. It lined up with that. And they ended up hiring like, I think like Neil Patel and like all these guys.
Dude, that's a whole nother tangent,
Yeah,
man.
I
The shit
know.
that, dude, on FTX.
I know, I know.
All right,
So
we'll bookmark that for
yeah,
another
yeah,
time for
yeah,
later on.
yeah.
Let's keep
So,
going.
so anyways, yeah. So he hired all these dudes to go in and yeah,
Experts.
these world experts to like go in and like do all these audits, and no one can, anyways, no one can end up like finding out what's wrong. I ended up getting hired. I don't even know how we met each other, but I ended up getting hired and going in, and I'm talking like everything. Like I threw this, like all the stuff that we're talking about and the keyword at the top of this and that, like I threw everything, dude. And it did, like it brought it it brought them more traffic and keywords, okay? They weren't where they were before. Like they used to rank like top 5 for like pearl earrings,
Yeah.
pearl necklaces and stuff. It didn't bring them to that, but it brought them back into like page 1. And anyways, we ended up like ending our engagement. This is whenever I moved and stuff. And so I recommended them to, talk to some other people. Take a Bitus, if you're familiar, that core SEO software that I used to like using
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
working with them. Anyways, I get hit up by him like January, February time, 2024, and he's like, dude, like all the work that you did just like disappeared again. Like we're back to where we were, and we don't know what's going on. And again, I'm like throwing spaghetti at the wall, dude, and I'm looking at everything, man, like technical, negative SEO, like every possible thing that I could.
Yeah.
And there was nothing that would
Starting to
move
conspiracy
the damn
yourself out.
dude. Yeah. And I was about to like tap out. I was about to tap
Yeah.
out. Like, but then I don't know, something ended up happening. I don't know. I'm like, okay. Before I give up here, like, let's look at this from the beginning again. Where is all the traffic coming from? What are all of their key landing pages? Whereas, like try to build myself up from the beginning again. And I'm like, wait a fucking minute. I'm looking at the top 10 pages of their website and they're coming from the blog, which is okay. But I'm looking at the blog. What is this? And it was like gemstones and like fashion trends. And I'm looking at their keywords. It's like gemstone related stuff at the top now, above all of their, the 99% of their site is pearl. But then that 1% is getting them a shit ton of traffic. And it was all like not related to pearl. It's like kind of related if you would read the articles, but not exactly pearls.
Sure. It's what some SEO people call top funnel content.
Yes, exactly. But
Yes.
this was like, I don't know, man. That's a little too top funnel. This was the Hail Mary. Okay, this was the idea that we had, and who forever's watching. If you guys pull up on SEMrush, you'd be able to see the breakdown. So the idea was completely we don't want to remove the blog, but we want to take the entire blog and move that to a completely separate domain, not a subdomain, domain, and get it far the fuck away from the main site, like completely separate. And we just link to it from the main site.
Yep.
And then from the blog, we just link to the main site. Okay. And I'm telling you, like I think the blog is called thepearlexpert.com or something like that. You'll see it when you visit the website. But overnight, it went from nothing. Overnight, that brand new website went from nothing to like 60,000 keywords and ranked number 1 for like fashion trends, like black gemstones, all the old stuff that it was ranking for overnight. Bam! It ranked for everything.
Moved over.
And then the main site, instantaneously, they started ranking for it. They're ranking number 1 right now, still today, for like pearl earrings, pearl necklaces, pearl.
Yeah,
it's crazy, dude. Crazy. And
so it's like the relevancy of what Google thought the site was versus what it is. It's like you can write yourself into being irrelevant for transactional kind of keywords.
And dude,
which I think is huge.
I think that it's because they were getting so much feedback from Google too. Like it's not just the fact that they had the pages, but that they were getting so much traffic from it that it was like confusing Google on like what the hell the site's supposed to be relevant about. And it's like making them less relevant for pearls, more relevant for this stuff. And it's like, like they're kind of like,
yeah, and Google's going to keep rewarding that site, that traffic to their blog because, like, hey, users are having a good experience. I don't have any other better content. They're not going to say, like, hey, hold on a second, you're an e-commerce website. Because even if you do some, like, searches, and you can see people are doing this for, like, certain niches where, like, they're going to write, like, top 10, like, web designs. And it's, like, a web design company that then features, like, other companies or other shit. Like, it's super weird. And Google's looking at it as, like, more of a classification type thing.
yeah.
But it's not really beneficial long term for that company because that ranking can go away rather quickly, in my opinion. So like having your site dialed in, like this is what I do, this is what I sell, and not going beyond that. Maybe a couple blog posts around like how to take care of your pearl earrings or something like that would make sense. But don't go off this fucking tangent of like trends, gemstones, like and just building out a basically you're becoming a content network rather than an e-commerce website. And Google was just like, well, I shouldn't rank them for that. Dude, we had another client that we didn't have the opportunity to do this, but I know that's what was happening. Dude, there's a personal injury lawyer that ranked really high for on their blog for like causes of
Oh
accidents.
yeah.
And
That dude, that was how I came up with that idea in the first place. But continue, please continue.
So it was a roadblock that we explored the idea of killing it because I'm like, it's bringing in traffic but not leads. But they would never kill it because they're like, this is such good traffic. At the time, I didn't have the good idea of like, well, we'll just move it to a different domain.
Yeah, me either.
That was genius on your end. But it was a great idea of like, okay, let's move it to a different domain. We never got the opportunity to, but all their local rankings struggled. I don't even know if they're still doing that.
I want to say a few months ago, it's still just like how it was. Just like how it was, yeah.
I know.
It's crazy.
I don't even know if the main lawyer's still involved with it, but I would be interesting to hit him up with an email and be like, hey, you might want to try this. Here's some free advice. But e-commerce websites, like you have to be careful with that. And I think even on non-e-commerce websites, let's say a B2B like SaaS company, right? And I've seen so many SEO people do this where it's like, I'm doing programmatic SEO and they're building a shit ton of content that's like kind of this top funnel-ish content around their cluster. It's kind of almost like the HubSpot where they call it pillar pages, etc. Mm-hmm. They're building up this giant library of content. And if not done correctly, I think the same thing can happen there where you're not going to rank for your like down funnel keywords because you're ranking for all this other stuff.
The only thing that I would add to that is like it makes sense whenever there's only so many like bottom funnel keywords that you can go after. Like there was a client that we used to work with, Goalie, and they at the time they were making apps for special needs kids. Basically, that's what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And then, but the content play made sense for them to go after more like special needs type content because then that would like, in that case, that makes sense. Journey. Yeah. But like, if it, like, put it this way, I think maybe you're familiar with Walla, right? Or you've heard of Walla? Walla shit sounds familiar? Okay, I think so. Whatever the case may be. Walla is a B2B SaaS company. And they make fitness studio software for fitness studios. But the point is they're B2B. And we were going to go down that route too with building out content, exactly like what you were just saying, and then decided against that. Because what would make more sense for them was like market specific landing pages about all of the different features, and obviously the homepage, a landing page for the main keyword. Like
those are all the things people should be doing first, like niches, the features, the problem they're solving, before you even think about like doing a blog about higher end stuff to gather them in. Sure, there might be some unique scenarios because your product doesn't really have the searches. There's not much, and you have to explore them that way, and that's fine. That's how you capture them in. But I think a lot of people kind of forget that when they're building their site.
Yeah, it's like in today's age, dude. It's like the blog needs to be a tool. It is a tool. Like back in the day, I mean, shit, dude, you've been doing SEO for longer than me. I mean, you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong. From my understanding, SEO way back in the day, everybody did a fucking blog because it was like you were ranking like gangbusters, and then you brought in traffic, and like you were good to go. Any traffic was good traffic, and you can rank for like.
So blogs were a place to dump content. That's all they were. Was a place to dump content because it did not fit into the current information architecture of a website. Like, I got this article. I'm not sure where to put it. I started to get on the board of like, dude, well, let's build like a resource section that talks about these needs that your clients are going to have. And that's maybe like middle funnel content, maybe get to the top. But then when you get to the top funnel, it's like, where the fuck do I put this content? So people are just, make a blog post about it. Dump it in the blog, dump it in the blog, dump it in the blog. And so that's kind of how that happened because Google was rewarding that kind of behavior. And so people would just be writing blog posts all day long, getting rankings for irrelevant keywords.
Did you notice, maybe thinking about what we're talking about now, was there ever an issue with having content that wasn't related to
No, I think there was a switch that happened. I don't think. Well, I mean, let me take that back actually, because that instance with that client was a long time ago. Actually, that was probably about 8 years ago with the lawyer
Uh-huh.
that we had that
Uh-huh.
issue. I don't think it originally started that way. I think any classification, any content, doesn't matter if you sell this or sell that. I'm going to rank whatever your site's about. I'm not going to distinguish between the two. I think there was at Google was fine. You could rank for multiple things. They didn't care. They didn't care about relevancy at
Yeah,
all.
It was almost
As
like a
far as like domain
page by
relevancy.
page basis. Whatever that page is
Yeah,
good.
no, 100% page by page basis. Didn't care. You could rank for whatever. Like I could be on my website, like my agency website. I could go write a post about running, and I could rank for it. I couldn't do that now. So there was some switch at the time. I'm not sure when that occurred. So I don't think it originally was like that. They probably did switch it. I mean, 8-10 years ago when we had that other client. I mean, maybe it was 8 years ago. Maybe they got more tighter with it 5 years. It's more of a recent thing because I think it makes
Yeah.
sense. Like it just makes, if you go back to like, I don't know, that was first principles is a kind of a trendy word of saying, but it's like, does someone really want to visit a pearl shop website about what does the amethyst represent in the aqua phase of the moon?
Right.
You know, it's like, why are you on a pearl website? Like, what the fuck? Like, they're selling pearls, you know? But if it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, let's reward that and that's what they are, then you can't have both of both worlds in there. So I think it's a great point. People just have to be very careful with their content strategy around that. But, dude, this kind of segues into all the things that we're talking about from an SEO perspective with the whole AI overview,
Oh, Jesus
people
Christ.
using
Yeah.
ChatGPT, that stuff. Like, yeah, you say Jesus Christ because it's a shift that's happening for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
But let me preface because I talked about this a little bit in the last podcast, but I feel like a lot of the same principles that we've discussed today or the core foundations of SEO still apply. They're still extremely important to do as far as optimizing your website, reducing the code so it looks clean, getting other websites to mention you. All these things help with getting higher results or showing up in LLMs, be it ChatGPT or Gemini or Google AI mode, which I kind of separate as its own thing because it fucking comes in as Google search right now. It doesn't get parsed out. Like we can't tell if it's organic or AI mode, which is horrible. They're not giving it in
What?
Search Console at all. They're not giving it
So I see the
separated out.
referral from Gemini in analytics, but then you don't know if that's from.
That's different.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to be like within Gemini, the app itself, but it's not AI
Interesting.
mode.
Huh.
Yeah, and so like ChatGPT, we know traffic coming through because you see the ChatGPT referral, and Perplexity, you see the referral as well. But AI mode in Google, it comes in as search right now. It sucks. Like I'd rather have it come in as a referring source. For it to
Interesting.
come through.
Yeah, dude. You would have
Because
think that they
you
would
can't
have rolled
distinguish
that
it.
out. Like that's dumb.
They don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you know that
Put it
is.
this way,
I
I'm like,
always. It blows my mind, dude. That like all of the AI overview, like traffic and stuff like none of that is reported in Search Console. You have to pull that out of analytics by looking at that URL pattern that we were talking about. That they don't even give that to you there,
yeah,
even though that is in Search too, and this is Google Search
that's in search too.
Console. But then yet does not.
Yeah, no, they won't give it. They won't.
Yeah.
They won't report it out. I'm not sure why. On the paid side, they won't even report it out either. So if you're paying for ads in Google AI mode or they come in overviews, they won't give you like a placement report of that.
Yeah, that's got to get.
So you
That's
have
got to
no
get nipped in the
idea
butt.
about
It's got to get
conversion.
nipped in the butt.
It's got to get fixed because we're kind of flying blind, or like, I don't know, man. Like I've been reporting a lot more to my clients, like in my dashboards. I have a separate line item in most dashboards now that are from analytics, just referring sources from ChatGPT or Perplexity, mainly those two. And like, has it increased? Are you getting traffic from these? And dude, I will tell you what, the last 2 months, especially this last month, it's like tripled for a lot of clients. And we're not talking like significant amounts. We're talking from like going from 20 to 40 to 70. But a year from now, that could be a source for 1,000 searches, and it's taking away from Google potentially. And I'm seeing conversions come through as well, like actual e-commerce purchases.
Yeah. I just started the other day, and I see one conversion blew my mind.
For your own site?
For another client, for an e-com client from Perplexity. I say it just blew my mind.
Yeah. And if you look at this curve of like adoption rate, it's in the last 2 months that it's cranked up just ChatGPT, not even Google AI mode, but ChatGPT and Perplexity as far as usage is concerned of people coming into the sites. And I think ChatGPT has been more lenient, or not more, or maybe that's the word lenient's the right way. Maybe it's the opposite of lenient, where they're being more gracious or willing to give out links within a search query result that links out, where they weren't. So I feel like you're getting a lot more direct traffic, or not direct traffic, but referral traffic coming in. Maybe before, I think it was probably hidden in direct traffic because someone would do a search, they find your brand, then they go directly to your website or they Google it. Like we had that happen to us. We're like, dude, why would someone in the middle of Texas search for Collective 42? We're not marketing there. And it happened to be a company that does medical devices and they're looking for website design. Well, hey, guess what? We rank decently well in Google for that terminology, and we rank decently well within LLMs for that terminology. So this person ended up doing like a ChatGPT search that we fit the requirements for. There wasn't a link, or they chose not to click on the link at the time. Can't tell. But they then Googled Collective 42, landed on our homepage, and then that's how they found us, and it was straight through that. I was like, oh shit. So you have to be very careful of like direct traffic coming in your website or branded traffic.
Interesting.
So,
interesting. Yeah, that's all interesting. Dude, I got to tell you too, based on what I've been like learning about how the LLMs work, but then how these like they build these systems on top of the LLMs. Dude, you have if you rank well in SEO and your site's like pretty clean, like it's easy to pull the content out of it. That's the way you get into all of these AI searches, which is really cool to say. Like everyone's talking about SEO being dead. It's like, nah, dude, like you even need it more than ever now. You just need to track attribution now across other channels.
So that's the thing I talked about last podcast. I've talked with other people, is like our SEO fundamentals are fucking critically important right now, more than ever. But the challenge is reporting or tracking back attributions. And there's just limited things that we have right now, be it GA, referral traffic. It's not like ChatGPT or Perplexity has a search console for us, so we know how many times our brands are mentioned. I have seen ads out there and products that are trying to be developed that's showing how does your brand show up in LLMs. Explain to me how the fuck they're going to do that accurately, because LLMs are super personalized.
Yeah.
It's not a fucking ranking report. Like I can go ahead right now and I can use ChatGPT's API pool in my Google Sheet, and I can put a query in there like, tell me the best web design companies in San Diego, and just give me 10. I could tell them that, and I could do that every day, and I could kind of come up with my own ranking report system in there. I'm not sure how useful that's going to be because of the customization that occurs for each individual.
Yeah,
user.
it's a hard one, dude. Like even those AI overviews change all the time. And then sometimes the AI overviews trigger for one person and then they won't even trigger for another person off of the same search. And
it's super customizable based on even like, the AI overviews are customizable. So it's like such a customizable experience where like, I don't know, ranking reports now are kind of not necessarily dead. You can kind of have it as a baseline and kind of get an idea, but it's like, I don't know how you're going to establish a baseline of tracking your LLMs outside of actual traffic coming into your website based on that, or setting up in your forms, like, how did you hear about me? And you have LLMs, ChatGPT in there. Like, you're going to have to do some manual stuff. So attribution is so difficult to track, but our SEO fundamentals stay the fucking same.
Important. It's more important than ever, if anything. Like SEO is not dead. So, it is, in fact, the most important right now if you want to get in the game.
100%. So one thing that I am testing out, I'm testing it out this month for our own website, and I'll keep an update on this. I might have talked about this in the last podcast. I don't know, but it's worth mentioning to you. But what I would suggest everybody doing is like I did this query of, let's say, for us, I did like one of the niches that we're in, and I asked ChatGPT, does Collective 42 offer website design services in this niche? And it pulls up a result and it tell you yes or no, but then it has citations, right? Where are they getting this information from? And if you go at the very bottom of the query, you can hit sources, or they'll be at like inline citations. But if you hit the very bottom, it'll list all the citations on the right-hand side. So you automatically know at least where they're pulling in. How did they get that understanding that they're part of this niche? It's going to be our website primarily, right? Our LinkedIn profile might mention something about it. But then it gets off into like some directories, which, okay, we're listed on some directories, which makes sense, and we talk about it. But then, dude, there is, I've seen it happen a couple times, but there are websites that are quoted as citations that they're pulling in that do not have a link back to our website. And, dude, they look like a link building.
What?
Like, it looks, yeah. So, like, the LLMs don't necessarily understand the authority of this site that had referenced our brand within a post. Like, it was like a listicle of, like, top 10 web design companies in Los Angeles. We're not going after Los Angeles. It was a weird scraped post, but it mentioned our brand. But the LLM picked it up as a site of citation to reference for our brand. And I'm like, huh. And I looked at the site, dude. It looks like your run-of-the-mill, blog network link building that still probably has some value from a link itself, but there was no link back to our website. So it gets me thinking, okay, there might be a pocket of time that the LLMs don't pick up on this right away. But instead of us going out and soliciting backlinks like we typically do, what happens if we just write an article that there's kind of two forms. One article is like, it's a bio piece about Collective 42 in this niche, right? Or it could be like the Pearl website and how they're great with Pearl earrings, right? And it's all about them and the brand. There's no link back to the website, though.
Just like its own little silo.
Its own little kind of like, okay, they got mentioned here. And then there's another one where you do more of like a listicle of, let's do the Pearl website. It's like, top 5, fashion summer trends, and when they talk about Pearl jewelry and they mention like, oh, buying Pearl jewelry from the Pearl shop or whatever.com. And then there's another one about gemstones, and it's another website that's not competing with you directly. So you kind of get into a listicle kind of feel of like the top 10 jewelry brands out there. And you just make sure that the top 10 are not directly competitors to you. And you push it out there. So you kind of get the both mix of like there is a biopic or bio-op, and then there's a listicle kind of thing that puts it together. And you put it out there on the internet, and you see if the LLMs cite it as a source. Obviously, you got to make sure it gets indexed. Maybe we push it to the LLMs to learn from it, etc. But if it can train off that information that we're feeding it, then that might be another way that we can influence how well you are mentioned in LLMs. So it's kind of like link building without.
That's interesting.
So it's an in-between of like traditional PR, which I think is on fire right now. Like if you have a PR company, like bro, I would be leaning so hard in, like you need your brand mentioned on this, I can get you here, I can get you there. And like that, it's just expensive, but it will work with LLMs. I know that it will. Still need some good foundational SEO, but like that mention of brands, it's going to be so big. So this is SEO is like, how do we, I guess artificially, it's what we do. How do we artificially show our brand to be bigger? And that could be something that we do out there. It's kind of like local SEO and doing citation building in that way, but in a broader scope for your brand and having it associated with keywords, because Google has always wanted to get away from links as a metric because it can be gamed so easily. So maybe this is a way that the LLMs are trying to understand the citations a bit more. So I'm testing it out. We'll see. It could, if it does work.
Do let me know.
That's
very interesting. That's very interesting.
And there was no risk too, as far as like, hey, if there's not a fucking link.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with nothing. It's got nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah, so you can take it to
holy shit,
you can take it to
you can do negative,
and you just do it on like
negative. You can negative.
Well, oh yeah,
Oof.
You could for sure.
Ooh,
yeah, that could be definitely the opposite side of it. Yeah, so I think it's pretty fragile. On what you can do there.
please let me know.
because I don't know how they're going to moderate that. I don't know how they're going to moderate the
Well,
authority
dude,
of
it's like
different
with Google,
sites
they
and
couldn't get rid of
conversations out
links,
there.
man. There's just fundamental things that they just can't get rid of it. You know, I don't know if we talked about this at the beginning of the year or not, but that those updates that we had back in December,
Mm-hmm.
I seen a drop, and all of my e-commerce clients, nobody else, just e-commerce. And again, you know, this is anecdotal for me, but I seen a drop in my e-commerce clients on their products and category pages. And then for all their keywords, I was doing basically research to see, okay, well, who's ranking now at the top?
Yeah,
And
who
I'm telling
pushed
you right
up?
now, dude, it's the product pages that have backlinks. It's like it was
Product
product
pages that have
pages,
backlinks.
collection pages
Interesting.
that had backlinks. That had backlinks.
Yeah.
As of January 2025, it seems like, at least for ecom, I don't know about anybody else, but they're valuing links more as more of a signal, because in the way that I'm thinking about it is it's easier to game content now because of all of the AI stuff. And then it's actually harder to gain backlinks, even though it's
Mm,
kind of easy to gain backlinks. So they gotta like,
that's a really
yeah,
interesting point.
yeah. I don't know for sure, but I can just tell you, man, that's what I seen, and it was like clear as day. You know how like you go on SEMrush, you can see the export of the SERPs for all. Then I'm spot checking all of the main keywords, and every
Yeah.
single one of them, I look up, you know, December 2024, January 2025, and just taking a look, and all of them, it's like December 2024, nobody had backlinks. January 2024 or 2025, everybody had backlinks. I'm like, what the hell? And it was like keyword
Mm.
after keyword, but. Yeah, it's interesting. All this is interesting.
I think the biggest thing for me is like with new clients and current clients, just educating them about what's going on, so it's not a fearful thing, because there's so much fearful shit
That's
out
true.
there, especially on LinkedIn, etc. Like what they're consuming, and just like letting them know, like, hey, man, we're at the pulse of this. We get what's going on. We have some ways to uh, show attribution that's coming in. Like that report for like ChatGPT referral traffic coming into your website or Perplexity, that's our fucking report. That's our earned revenue, our earned traffic. Like we have a new channel
True.
to report on. Like we're obligated to report on it. Even if it's small now, it's going to grow over time. So kind of explaining that to the client, adapting how we do it, and then just explaining like, dude, this is how it works. Like you need to do this. Like if you're not doing it, even though we don't know how it may be necessarily 100% works, we know that this will help. It's like, why wouldn't you be investing in SEO? And I just can't stand that some people are calling it AI optimization, or maybe it's not that I hate it, but it's like there needs to be like a learning lesson out there, because you're going to get the snake oil salesman. It's like, you want to rank higher in LLMs, you got to do this, and it's like, well, you're doing SEO, like hold on, if you know what you're doing. So
Yes, yes, yes. Give me 1 second, Steve, if you don't mind. I'm supposed to jump on a call right now. Apparently, I did
oh
not
no, we can
know.
wrap it up, man.
I,
That's perfect. Actually, we're
that
at the top
works.
of the hour. It works out. We got 53 minutes in here, so I'm gonna just say we'll wrap it. We'll get this all cut up, and so I don't know if you want some shorts or whatever.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
try to send it
So,
over to you.
sorry, man.
But thanks everybody for listening in. It was fast and furious, and dude, we'll definitely have
Absolutely.
to do this again. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit stop on this, but hang on the line. All right, see you later, guys. Thanks everyone.